Welcome to Demolition Success Secrets, the podcast that's changing the game for demolition businesses everywhere. Ever wondered how a wrecking ball wielding industry can leverage digital marketing to dominate their market? Well, we've got the blueprints, strategies, expert guests, and more to show you how. Stay tuned, because we're about to blast through the barriers of your business.
Alrighty, guys, welcome to another episode of Demolition Success Secrets. This morning we have Chaz on the podcast. Chaz, how's it going, man?
How we doing, buddy?
Doing good, man. So where do you hail from? Where are you right now?
Buxton, Maine, a few 20 minutes south of Portland, Maine. So not too far from the center of all activities in Maine.
Nice, cool. Now, are you up in Maine? I know there's a little bit of a backstory there. What brings you to Maine? Were you born there? Have you lived there forever? What's kind of the backstory?
I was originally born here. Lived in Florida for a little while as a kid. Came back here, finished high school here. Started a landscape company when I was in my early 20s and ran with that for about 10 years. Learned the ins and outs of running a business, the do's and do's nots. Got teamed up with a guy, and we said, you know what, let's try something else. And we went to Texas. And coincidentally, right after Hurricane Harvey was when we put this plan together and learned the construction trade down there, doing small remodels, kitchens and bathrooms, what have you. Learned the trade of construction, pretty much hit the ground running. Then ended up having to shift gears and move back home, as most young people who try things like that do. We didn't blow up like I thought we would, so regardless, it put me on the path that I am here now. So I'm fortunate for that. Came home, kind of was like, geez, what am I gonna do? And I got into the back into GC in a little bit, but being a new kid in town, it was tough to get anybody to do anything for me. Literally in that year, it was like 2018, 19, the economy kind of just boomed, and there wasn't really any much room for me to fit in anywhere. You know, to get somebody to give me a drywall estimate, it would take them, I think it was 4 months. One time I heard some guy to give me an estimate, and I'm like, come on, this is sustainable. I cannot live like this. So I said, well, what am I really an expert on? Well, even in my GCing trades, I wasn't doing the framing in what have you. I wasn't constructing the things. I was like, but you know what? I know how to take things apart. So I put the word of mouth out that, I'm in town and I'm kind of doing odd jobs and dropping trees and clearing lots. And next thing I know, I get a call to demo a wooden floor in Yarmouth. And I said, geez, how hard can it be? I mean, physically labor, all right, I got no problem with that. Easy to figure out. So I went and attacked that. And I think even though the last day, I mean, I had my mother come help me pull nails. That was
wow,
my first job. Just whatever it took to get it done. And come to find out, it turned out to be a pretty profitable situation, even my lack of tools and equipment at the time. And since then, it's kind of just snowballed. More trucks, more guys, more heavy equipment, more every tool you can imagine under the sun. I mean, I could open my own Home Depot if I wanted to. So and here we are today.
That is awesome. Okay, so I love the history. I love the transparency. What were some of those lessons, good and bad, in your other ventures that maybe could be applicable to our audience who's either in the demo space right now, considering joining the demo space? Maybe let's not touch on the direct demo lessons per se, but maybe the indirect through those other ventures you went through, good and bad.
Right. So I don't know, I guess good and bad. Sometimes you just got to take a shot. And God, I never would have gotten here if I didn't just take big risks. I mean, down there, we couldn't find anybody to do the drywall and mudding and spraying texture and stuff on walls, which I knew nothing about. So I thought, I could YouTube that and I'd come up with it. Well, I couldn't. I was not a professional at spraying texture and stuff. So I was not doing well at it, and the customers knew it. So that was a sense where I was like, geez, if you don't know, really, you should call a professional. But in the same sense, the story I just said about starting out tearing out wood floors and stuff, I still remember where I was when I got a call for a customer up here that said, I have an old barn house. Can you tear the whole thing down? And I remember the pinch in my stomach when I was like, ooh, that's a little bit out of my comfort zone. And I came back and I said, absolutely. What's the address? And sure enough, fast forward a couple months later, I had 18 wheelers lined up and the whole thing was going smoothly and I tore it down and it was the most profitable day I've ever had in my life up to that point. I kind of doubted I'm like, oh boy, is this going to go all right? What's going to go wrong? And one of the 18 wheelers got lost in town going under a low bridge. And I'm like, oh, what have I done? I'm not sure about this and this isn't going well. But sure enough, I stuck on it. And that was one of the proudest days of my life up until that point, that day that I had that all going smoothly. So it's like on one hand, take a shot. And on the other hand, you could miss, but you got to be ready for it.
That's awesome. Yeah. Good lesson there. That's kind of the weird thing about it is like we all got to kind of have a screw missing. You got to have a screw in alignment to make sure that you can handle the operations and the professionalism and all that stuff. But there is that other variable side where it's like, I'm kind of like a gambler. Like I'm kind of at the casino table right now, and hopefully the odds are more in my favor than the house's favor. But yeah, you always are kind of angling upward and putting one foot out there, not certain whether the water is going to be 1 inch deep or 10 feet deep. And it's like, let me just test. And then sometimes you find out it's, 1 foot deep and you could totally just bridge that gap. I love that. Anything with like business partnerships, that always comes up pretty often. People always debate, should I not? Have you learned any wisdom there? Are you a guy who says, by all means, I'll partner with someone, equity, let's split it 50-50? Are you the type of guy who's just like, no way, I'll pay someone out in profit, I'll pay them handsomely, what have you, if they add value, but this is my baby and we'll hash it out from there?
So that whole Texas trip that we took there, that was the first time I had partnered up with somebody. He actually had bought into my landscaping business and it hadn't really took off like I was promised. So I went farther down the hole and we went to Texas together to start that. And I can't recommend having a partner, I guess. I feel pretty comfortable being the sole owner. As far as like, if, I do have I can think of one employee in mind that has been through a lot with me through the long haul. And I think he does deserve like to be treated like he's been there through a lot of it. So I try to make sure to let him know and financially let him know that he is very appreciated here. And I think that I would recommend that to anybody who has somebody that's loyal to them. I find that as much as like I want to give these guys all $1 million a year, but it's just not sustainable. I just can't do it.
Right.
I'd love to bump up his weekly salary or all my guys' weekly salary, but it's when the slow times come, I don't want to have to pull back or tell the guy that I have to lay him off because I can't afford his paycheck. So when the times are good, I try to treat them to, bonuses on the spot when we can get them. One thing that I've developed, which I almost kind of don't even want to give it away, it's a secret, but every time we get a 5-star review, whoever was on that job gets an extra day's pay.
Whoa.
Part of the job, they got a 5-star review.
Holy crap, that's a big pay. Nice.
You got to. I mean, what's more important than getting good remarks? Having your guys do a good job. I'm no mathematician, but I can't see myself going out of business because my guys are doing so well at so many jobs that I'm over. I only see that being a benefit. One thing we do, like I said, I mean, probably everybody here, some days, probably everybody here is underpaid just for some of the tasks that we are up against.
Including yourself.
I know.
Some
days are a lot harder than others, but then there's just some days that we just got to grit our teeth and we're there for long hours and it's scorching hot or it's blowing snow and we got no choice. I mean, this isn't Walmart. This is a small business. Like, if we don't perform, there's not 30,000 other people that are going to perform, like if we don't show up, there's no checks. Like we all need to go find a new job. So I try to convey that we're a team, and that's tough because I am friendly with everybody, and I am friends. And I know that's a line that you're not supposed to cross, but I'd rather work with friends than people I don't like. I don't know. Maybe you work with people you don't like. It's easier to boss them around and dispose of them, but I don't know. I'd rather not, So,
Right. Yeah, and a lot of the companies we talk to, they reference culture, which is funny. I was thinking about it the other day. I was thinking like almost like a cult is like cult culture, even the words, where I live near Scientology. I'll put it out there. I live in St. Pete. Scientology's up in Clearwater. It's very interesting to walk around that city.
I live there for a while.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's very interesting. So like you do kind of think of it where you kind of you need to foster that so people are happy to be there, they're involved, they're honest as much as possible, all that stuff. But yeah, it is kind of weird because it's a strange bond of are we friends? Are we coworkers? Are you the employee? Like I always try to be like, I'm not your boss. We're peers. Like I need to bring bacon in to feed you bacon. You need to bring bacon in to feed us bacon so I can keep feeding you.
Mhm.
Um, the whole family thing, and some people say that that's weird and creepy, but there is something of that. Like mom and dad need to provide for the children, especially back in the day when the children would work on the farm and stuff for the family, so that way they can provide for mom and dad, and it's kind of like a infinite loop. So that is interesting how you kind of do that. Everyone I talk to, that's their thing. They've realized it's not be the jerk boss, be the
Mhm.
demeaning guy. There's this weird thing, maybe it's just popular culture where we think that that's the role to some extent, and you have to be firm, but you also have to be not a jerk because that's how you make competitors, that's how you make enemies, that's how you lose your team and they steal your secrets and insights and take it to the next guy.
Mhm. I mean, I
So
recall I've been self-employed most of my, adult life, but the few years that I did work for somebody else, I know the feeling I had working for somebody else.
mm,
Like, is he the type of guy that just drives by once in a while? Like he's never getting his hands dirty? Are we the ones breaking our back for him all the time? And I know it goes that way now, and I think my guys are aware that I am willing to do the same work that they do, as I am often on the job site. I mean, sometimes I choose not to be on plaster jobs or siding, removing siding and for a week on a lift. But like the big machines that go, like I'm always the first one there. Like I can't wait to get them.
mm.
I spring out of bed like Christmas to go tear down a building. That's my favorite thing. But and that being said, I assume they understand that I still have to go out and hunt, and
Yeah.
for instance, like they're on the job site right now and I'm in my garage doing this podcast. So I think that they're pretty comfortable with the fact that I'm not just laying out on the beach, although
Mm,
it is my right to do that as the owner.
sure.
But for morale's sake, I think they're aware that I'm usually spending my time trying to move the business forward one way or another, whether it's picking up paperwork to get lien waivers released, or get a truck registered, or pick a truck up from here, or make an appointment over here, buy a hose. I mean, whatever. Pay the bill over at the disposal place. There's always stuff that kind of needs to get done that you don't really see.
Yeah, it's funny. It's almost like take your kid to work day. It would be interesting to some extent if in certain companies they would take a team member on a daily basis, not on a, however that looks. If you have 10 team members, maybe, one time twice a year or something, and it's just like, hey, like, let me show you. I know your world. Like, I've been on the ground, but let me show you. I'm not just at my desk with my boots kicked up. I'm not the guy with the biggest, baddest truck and no stress. Like, I want you to understand that, you're getting a paycheck irregardless of what's going on behind the scenes. Like,
Right.
you're not having to push the business forward. And yeah, it's hard work. Totally get that. But I've done the hard work and it continues. And it's at a different level where if I'm not up here and I'm down here forever, you can't, like you can't exist if I'm down here forever. I have to
Mhm.
do this weird, unique, kind of risky stuff up at the top, so to speak. And that doesn't mean I'm above you and you're below me. It just simply means like I'm doing stuff that you may not fully understand or comprehend. So come on with me for a day, twice a year, whatever that is, just so maybe we can kind of understand each other. Meanwhile, you're with them, all the time kind of thing. And they definitely know you understand their world. I think that would be kind of an interesting way for stuff to happen, because I've worked at companies and I'm just like, man, the boss, he's in Italy, he's in, France. I'm here in the office just like, man, I'm doing the same old thing every day. And this guy, I guess he thinks it's a moral boost to send me this stuff, but I'm over here like, screw him. Like, I want to be in Italy right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've made the mistake of not doing the owner's duty and doing like a foreman and that's one of the
Mm,
problems is I love to be a foreman sometimes. I like
mm,
on the job site, elbow deep in it. I love logistics of this guy needs to be doing that with that machine so that it will wrap up before that machine goes that way so that that truck can head to that dump and then that can go that way. And then we'll have 3 guys to go to lunch that way. When they come back from lunch, they can pick that up. Like I love all that and all those. And I'm guilty of being in the field in an excavator and just hyper focused on what we're doing and is everything going to time? And then like my phone's ringing and I'm like, I don't have time. My phone's like, I don't have time. I don't have time. We got to pound this out. We got to get this out. I don't have time to take this call. And
right.
what are those calls? Those are jobs.
Uh,
And so we pound out this job and then we're on to the next one and same thing. Phone, boom, 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 boom. We're done. And then I go, all right, great job, guys. Everyone's like, what's going on for Monday? And I'm like, oh, yeah, I didn't line anything up
mm,
because I've been
right.
busy with you guys. Yeah. I'm guilty of making that mistake for years.
That is fair. Yeah, it's kind of tricky thinking.
That's why I hired an office manager to help me
Right.
maintain that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of weird, the paradigm of like the owner of the football team, like a Robert Kraft, who's like a billionaire. There's the coach. There's the coaches under the coach, as head coach, subject matter expert coaches. There's a quarterback. And it's like you are the quarterback. And there's this whole transgression of these different layers and levels. Um, Kind of interesting where you could be like, hey, I want to be the coach more often than not. I can be near the field, but not on the field. And it's just like constantly training yourself and then reminding the guys like, hey, I used to be a quarterback too. I still have that in my heart and soul. But like, in order for me to take care of this team and for us to all win at large, I have to be on the sidelines so that way I can make sure, your linemen are covering you, quarterback, to make sure you're safe and in the pocket and everything. So interesting stuff. Very, very interesting stuff. What are some things, obviously you've been in demo for some time now, maybe 2 or 3 things that you wish you knew back then when you were just kind of starting up in demo that you now know now or close, hold rather close to you?
Well, I guess maybe I'm not even sure about that. I've usually always been pretty tight with budgeting. I don't know. I've kind of everything I wanted to know. I just went and kind of figured it out.
Mm.
I don't know what I could have told myself. Buy this stuff sooner. I didn't have the money to buy it sooner. I had to wait till I had the cash flow to buy that. Man, you should buy that skid steer the first 6 months. I mean, when I first bought the first skid steer, it was during like COVID, and I remember the feeling of, man, this thing's almost $1,300 a month, and is this going to be enough? Am I going to keep the work going to sustain this thing? And signing my name on it, and it was during COVID, so it took them I think 4.5 months to get me one.
Wow.
And when it finally came, it was pretty much like a few jobs here and there, but then after about 6 months, it was like, geez, I think we could use another one. Can't even keep up with this.
Whoa.
So then, I mean,
Cool.
yeah, then I went and bought the excavator and the same thing. I'm like, boy, am I going to have enough to keep this thing busy? And sure enough, I mean, I think that excavator gets used probably throughout the year on average at least 2 days a week through the entire year. And some days, some weeks, it's every single day for weeks. And then of course in the wintertime, there's some slow patches. But I think if you average it out, we probably use it like 2 days a week, which to rent it 2 days a week would just be astronomical fees. So it was definitely beneficial to just buy it. Which of course back and forth, oh, should we buy it in maintenance or should we rent it? So it's there's just, I don't know. I guess maybe once you get your heart set on something, like believe in yourself and just do it instead of,
Right.
and I'm still guilty of this, and I'll probably do it next week with should I do this? Should I buy this? And not believe in yourself. Like, I don't, and just do it. And that's not always necessarily buying something. It's taking the job that you think is a little risky. Like, the way I look at it, you're not going to get ahead by not doing the job.
Right.
So
within reason, yeah.
within reason.
Yeah,
I
because
mean,
sometimes you can go backwards taking
yeah.
a certain
I mean, and
job,
I've
but
done
like you
that
said,
too.
you weigh it.
I've gone backwards before on a job too, but the learning experience was worth the cost. So yeah,
That's fair.
definitely. I own a demo company, and it does okay. Far from rich, but there's still a lot to learn, myself included. I don't claim to be an expert. I just own the company and do the best I can.
Yeah, that's all you can do. What do you think that divide from the rich versus, where you guys are right now? Like, what are some of those things? I don't want to say that keep you up at night, but what do you think would move you guys to the next levels? It's just more deals, more
It's
action.
it's the jobs. Part of the
Mm,
fun of this for me is somebody like I just wrapped up a phone call 1 minute before this call about getting awarded a pretty large project in
cool.
Kittery. Several teardowns on one stage, and then the part that's not being torn down is being completely gutted, and the foundations are coming out and separating of buildings, and all that's going on at the same time. And that was in kind of in tow with another project that I looked at in Massachusetts by the same builder, and I was really wanted to get both of them. And so I talked to one of the project managers, and he said, "Well, you're new, it's a new relationship. Let's start you off with this Kittery one, and before we're going to give this Massachusetts one to somebody else, as we don't want to overload you. We want to see how you do." And I'm like, "All right, I guess that's fair. There's a new relationship." But then I just got off the phone with somebody else, said, "No, they're not giving it to somebody else. They want to see how you do on this Kittery job before they give you the Mass one." So I said, "Well,
Cool.
all right, now this is what I live for." Like, "Oh, you gave me a challenge. You gave me a challenge. All right, I will line up the personnel, the equipment, the disposal. Like, I love this. Like, let's go. Like, overload me with work. That's what I want. So
Right.
what separates me from a rich, large demolition company, for instance, like I've seen in Portland tearing down, the hospital, like
Mhm.
multi-level parking garages and stuff. Those are big guys, and I don't think they're even from Maine. I think they're from Massachusetts, but I've looked at some of their websites. First of all, their websites are friggin' dialed in. Like, they have
Mm.
moving images and all this, and I was like, "Oh, I'm interested." Yeah, and I don't know. They probably got the ball rolling before I was born at some point, but
Mm.
they've got like $3 million of equipment on each job site, and they are just rolling with probably 50 guys. Multi-million-dollar demolition projects. I mean, I'd love to get there, and I think it's just to keep leveling up, and constantly staying busy as you level up. Uh,
Mm.
I've had some clients of mine that were pretty steady. And in fact, when I first started, they kind of helped me get to where I was. Pretty much helped keep the lights on with the steady flow of work. But the bottom dollar was never really a home run. It was like it kept the lights
Yeah.
on, it paid the bills, but it didn't really ever fill the tank any. It just kept us running. And like another thing, not believing in yourself, believe in yourself. Because I thought to myself at some point, because that jeopardizes your time as a small company. If you're doing these jobs that are just keeping the lights on, how are you going to do a job over here that can be a home run? So
Right.
of
Sure.
years of I'd have 3 home runs lined up, and then these guys would come knocking, and they're all faithful. And if you don't service them, they're going to go somewhere else. So I always kept servicing them because I'm scared that I was going to lose them and have nothing. So that was when I
Mhm.
finally took the step and said, "All right, we're going to start going for the home runs. It's better to do a home run and sit home for a week than it is to be over here working for 3 weeks just to break even." So that's
Mhm.
that's kind of how I started change things this spring. And yeah, there's been moments where things have been slow, and I've been nervous. But I think it's going to come out in the long run. I mean, you tighten down the hatches, cut down the spending, and pretend that you don't have a job coming for a month, and plan for it. And sure enough, here comes a home run. So
Mhm.
I'll let you know in 6 months how it turned out.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I get it because, like, it's the whole thing of if you keep doing the same thing that you've been doing, you're gonna keep getting the same results.
Right,
And to
exactly.
some extent, I mean, like, incremental growth, it stacks up, it compounds, but you're not going to get far if you're only profiting $3,000 a month. You got to go for a long haul to get to anywhere where it's significance. Now, when you start doing 30,000 a month in total profit, net, 300,000 a month, those sorts of things. Those are big numbers, of course, but obviously these big guys are doing that, and how did they do that? They kind of compounded and stacked, but they weren't so slow that they just said, yeah, we're good at 3,000 net profit every month. We're just going to stick there. We're never going to extend ourselves. I guess some of those are out there, but they're not the big guys. It's just so tough.
Yeah. Which would kind of keep me under a glass ceiling. Like if I just stayed, you know what, we'd be comfortable, the bills would be paid. I think everybody's salary would be met. Honestly, I think it bangs on morale to just keep gutting interior office buildings and stuff. Like it just beats us up. Physically, we're all getting a little bit older every year. I'm the oldest guy on the crew right now, which I guess I'm with, but yeah, I mean, it starts to wear you out every day. Climbing ladders, yanking sawzalls, pulling drywall, sealing tiles, loading trash barrels, dragging it out to the trailers. Like, okay, here and there to like fill, but when that was turning into like, we're doing 20,000 square foot office for like 2 months, just doing that every single day, I'm like, man, this is killing morale. And then I thought to myself, and many other people's giving away all my secrets here. Like, what separates me and my guys with a trash barrel, a hammer, and a pry bar versus that guy with a trash barrel and a hammer? Like, yeah, maybe we're a little more physically fit and can move faster, but that's not going to be a game changer. That's not going to make, oh, wow, call Briggs because they're fit and they can demo things. They're in better shape and they can demo an office in a day faster than these guys can do it. Like, that's not going to move the needle. I'm like, what is our competitive advantage? I'm like, well, our competitive advantage is that we all did pretty much start with interior. We do understand how construction works. So as far as dismantling things, 100%, separating, there's a lot of companies that won't get out of the machines. Either they don't want to, or they don't have the know-how to get out of it. So if it comes to separating something or doing something methodically, they don't, or they bid it so bad that I win it, I guess, because I bid it more So that's like our competitive advantage is that we know this stuff and we have equipment. Whatever equipment I don't have, I have a relationship to have it there, and within 3 days anyways, I can rent. But that we're all skilled operators, and yet we can jump out of a machine and run a sawzall and know where to cut a house to separate it, within a couple hours, have half of a house torn down. And then some we've even weather tight and resheathed and sided the house. So like that's a competitive advantage for us, that we know the ins and outs of machinery and handwork. So it opens up some opportunities for us. And I feel that that's one of our largest competitive advantages versus other companies.
Makes sense. Yeah. Do you have days where, let's say, obviously you're kind of taking those risks to wait for the bigger deals, which makes sense. If you just do little stuff, your guys are so beat up and tired that the medium and larger stuff, it's hard to even fulfill.
Yeah.
How does it go with payroll and things where, let's say there's a day your guys aren't working? Does it ever happen where like you're literally still paying them? It's like, hey, they're just sitting on your tail. Like, do they come to the office? What do they do? Do they network for you during that time? How does that look?
No, I try to, again, what I ask of them is they show up on time every day, ready to work, which they do. And if we're slow, that's not their problem. They're employed by, so I take it as my responsibility that they should be paid. If I don't line work up for them, that's on me, 100%. And it took me a little while when I first got going. My first summer got going. And geez, I had $200 to my name to get going. So yeah, the first job,
wow.
I was all on my own, of course, cutting trees. And I remember I had the flu at one of them, but like I needed the freaking money. So I was hallucinating and sweating and about to pass out, but still running a chainsaw and hooking it to a chain and dragging it with my truck up so I can cut the tree up on the landing, whatever I could do. And then when I had some jobs, I was like, you know what? I got a little money set aside. I'll, hire this guy. All right. Well, I got this good guy and he wants to go for a little while. But then I got nothing. So then I'm talking to one of my buddies and I'm like, dude, I don't have enough to keep this guy busy. So I keep pushing and pulling like, hey man, I need you. Hey man, I don't need you. And of course he needs to feed his family. So he's got to go where the money's at. He's, if he's not available, it's because he found something else to do. So my buddy just looked at me one day and he goes, man, you just got to pay him no matter what. And once that clicked, I was like, oh yeah. And suddenly I became extra hungry and I started bidding jobs. I was like, you know what? Even if I just freaking break even on this, I got to keep this guy busy. Like, so whatever, I'll just keep him busy. And, I'm basically doing jobs. I'm doing it for free because it's such a little job, but it's enough to, keep paying him, pay for the disposal. And maybe after doing it for 3 or 4 days, make the truck payment. Like there wasn't much left for me, but I saw the importance of keeping him busy and the value of having him with me so that down the pipeline, sure enough, it was my first year and I bid on my first $10,000 job, which I was like, oh my God, wow. Should I even submit this? I mean, the math, all that, I'm scared to even put this. The guy's going to think I'm crazy. Oh my God,
Right.
$2,000 to do. Wow. I mean, I don't know. I double checked all the numbers. According to Google, this is the medium going rate. The guy goes, okay. I'm like, wow. So it was like that, I kept this guy employed through all the slow times because I knew down the road I was going to need him. And boom, that paid off. And that $10,000 job I did, we took us like 4 days. And again, I barely had any equipment back then and knew a quarter of what I know now about demolition. Looking back at that particular job, yeah, we would have had that done in a day now with what I've got now. So, but at the time, I mean, all right, this is the payday. I mean, this is just, of course, leveling up. But back then, wow, that was a game changer. That put a cushion in my bank account. And then I was a little more confident to have him start coming with me on more stuff. So which we started turning and burning faster and faster. So I know, it's like I don't know, it's like the recycle symbol.
Right.
Yeah.
That infinite loop, the recycling symbol where it just keeps going through. That is funny. Yeah, man. Well, this has been awesome. Any other last little golden nuggets, anything like networking, what your mindset is there, how you guys do it, how to get more jobs, that kind of thing?
As far as networking goes, the word of mouth to me has been not enough to be sustainable. Like a few people, an old friend will reach out, hey, can you tear down this mobile home? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. But hasn't been that kind of networking hasn't been a game changer. I think really it's been my online listings, Google and what have you, that has been really the main driver. Repeat customers as far as residentials, you're not going to get too many callbacks. Like, hey, can you tear down my house? Yep. Hey, can you come back and tear down another one of my houses? Like, so it's pretty much like the commercial construction companies that you want to hitch your wagon to.
Right.
And understand that once you've hitched your wagon to them and you build a reputation, your price will probably go down because of the workload that they steadily feed you, and just you have to be prepared for that. Whether or not the pricing is sustainable for you.
Interesting. Yeah, so you're saying even the aspect of you get it, yes, awesome, but then they start to whittle down per unit, so to speak, and it's like, are they using me, or am I still winning? Is this worth our headache?
Right. So then you think about, well, they're giving me continued work, and you know what? As far as I know now, and I'm hooked to these guys, we'll be busy for years. I mean, that's a price, that's a feeling, that's a good feeling, some security. Job you will always have a job. They're selling jobs, and they're hooking you up with all this. That's good. So you are going to pay a premium for that. Your price is going to be down a little bit because they're fully aware of how much they feed you, which you have to understand is fair.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, even on big jobs where 2,000 square feet is 2,000 square feet, say, is, $8 a square foot. But when you do 30,000 square feet, it's like $4 a square foot. So the bigger the job,
wholesale.
Yeah, the smaller the dollar amount gets. I mean, of course, it's increased because of overall size, but the units.
Interesting. Now, do they nudge you guys on that, you feel? Do they say, hey, here's the requirement, you got to do it at this amount or not? Or is it something they kind of whisper in your ear, hey, we've done 10 things this year. Could you cut us a deal? Like, is it formal, informal? How do you?
I've had a relationship with a company out of Portland that started out like that, and I was fine with it. The whispering in the ear. I'm a very down to earth guy. Like, I understand how business works. I understand that your company needs to make money, and I know you understand my company needs to make money. Now, I understand if you've given me 5 jobs, and they've all been good, we've done well on them, and then one of them you go, man, the client's beating me up on this. We're looking to cut some costs. Do you think you could just knock this out for like $5,000 less and you can have the job? Smart guy is going to say, yeah. You can stand there and go, nope, not doing it. And then what about the reputation you've just built for this company? They're going to say, well, now just remember, as you cut them a break on that, at some point there needs to be a job that you feel good on, that you did well. So just remember yourself well, because I've lost track of that myself several times. Well, can you help us out and just take this extra wall, like after you're there, and can you just pull all this concrete out of there? And I'm like, yeah, just to keep the relationship going, which I still to this day don't know if that's the right or wrong thing to do. I have friends in different trades that would argue that's the wrong thing to do. Sure. But me just greasing the wheels, I want to keep the relationship moving. So who knows? I guess I'm still here.
Yeah, no, it is a tricky one. My old boss would have said that's scope creep. And you're like, yeah, I hear you. And it's kind of like a weird, funky thing. Does that become a change order? If you do it once, do they now expect it multiple times, which we all know can be kind of a slippery slope? I mean, even ourselves, let's say you have someone working on your house. Hey, man, can you help me with this one extra thing? And they're like, it's not really my scope, but yeah. And then you're like, oh, there is this other thing too. It gets kind of funky. So maybe that's a thing where it's like, future relationships, we'll do this one thing, but any other stuff, I'm just going to let you know right now, not in a jerky way, but just kind of setting a framework of, yeah, we can help you on that. If there is anything else that comes up, I do have to kind of just have this line in the sand. We will have to have, some sort of change orders or additions to the invoice, something like that. Is that cool? Cool. All right, cool. I cover your back, you cover mine.
One thing that sways me is, if we're on a $2,300 job and a guy's asking for extra stuff, but then, you're on a $85,000 job and a guy's like, can you just, get rid of these 3 trees right here? Yep.
Right. Right.
So, I mean, it depends, I guess. That's the level that I'm getting to. So, yeah, now I'm excited about those type of jobs. So, but hopefully in 5 years, I'm like, 85,000, cut your own trees.
Get to it, bud. That is funny. Well, Chaz, I think we really covered the bases. My water's done. I see you got a little bit left, but you two are kind of parched. So really, really appreciated having you on. You and I are going to stay on the line here, but I think we're going to sign off. Before we do that, just please share your website, your phone number, anything pertinent that people can find you guys with so they could reach out.
Yes, I'm Chaz at Briggs Contracting, BriggsContractingMaine.com, 207-894-8282. So
beautiful.
Call the demo, Ken.
Beautiful. And that goes for anyone who needs demo in his market. That goes for anyone who maybe could become a partner, whether you're a developer, a GC, just a normal old person. You need a farm torn down, you need a house torn down, anything like that. Please reach out to Chaz and his team. Really solid guy, as you guys can tell. Very transparent, to the point, hardworking. So guys, thank you so much for listening to another episode. Chaz, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you much. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. See you guys. Have a good day.
That's a wrap for this episode of Demolition Success Secrets. Stay tuned and subscribe for more explosive insights from our upcoming episodes. Until then, continue to blow up your demolition business and make the competition rubble in your path.